Hey, it's Wednesday afternoon. We're going to do a Bible study today. Now, the good news is we're going to be talking today about 2 Timothy chapter 3. There's a lot going on in 2 Timothy chapter 3. It's a pre-warning of the end time in one sense, which makes it very interesting. And if you used Matthew 24, the first 14 verses of Matthew 24, with this text, you see what it's like right before the end time of tribulation begins. Now, I do believe that there is a great period of tribulation at the end of time. I'm a premillennialist, and I do believe there is a tribulation. I believe there's a rapture. But in Revelation 6, we have the seal judgments. I have a lot of debate in my own mind whether or not we go through the first seal judgments. I'm leaning more and more that we will. And that will be the time right before the Antichrist really reveals himself. Now, in Matthew 24, starting with about verses 3 through verse 14, he's telling you as if we are rushing to the end time, but the things that are in the first 14 verses of Matthew 24 are not in that time where the Antichrist has revealed himself. He actually, in Matthew 24, reveals himself in verse 15. All that to say that we are rushing toward the end of time. In 2 Timothy 3, Paul begins to tell you that hard times are coming for Christians. Now, he was talking about what was coming from about 60 AD to 100 AD in his mind and time frame. But the Spirit of God also uses this to warn us of the end time. So with all that said, I want you to know perilous times are coming. What are perilous times? Times when we are in peril, when Christians are in peril. So I just want to start off by reading to you the first few verses 1 through 7 in 2 Timothy 3. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away, for of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women, loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, Warren Wiersbe had some very good comments to say about this time, so I want to read to you what he said. The last days is a period of time that actually began with the life and ministry of Christ Jesus on earth, the first 2 verses of the book of Hebrews. However, the New Testament indicates that the last days refers particularly to the state of the church before the coming of Christ. These shall be perilous times. That is difficult, hard to deal with. This is the same word used in Matthew 8:28 to describe the man filled with demons. Because of the doctrines of demons that men will believe, Satan will turn this world into the devil's graveyard, is what Wiersbe said, just as he did with that poor man. We are in those days now. Now, these are the days rushing to when the Antichrist will reveal himself in Matthew 24:15. During these days, self-love will be the hallmark of the last days. Matthew 24 says, love will wax cold. This self-love will lead to grasping attitude and a boastful spirit. Boasters really mean swaggerers. True affection will disappear. Unnatural affection will prevail, as we see in the news every day. Incontinent means intemperate. Fierce means savage. He's using the King James. And was there a time when such savage crimes have been committed? heady, reckless. Surely we live in a reckless age. Whether you look at the speed of travel, waste of money, lifestyles. Verse 5 indicates that there will be plenty of religion in the last day, which is kind of sad. They'll have a form of godliness, but denying its power in verse 5. From such people turn away. Plenty of religion, but it'll be a mere imitation. A form of godliness without the life-changing power. The departing from the faith that Paul preaches. 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul wrote about that. There's more religion today than ever before. But religion that has Jesus as the center and the power, that's another thing. The Bible continues to be the nation's bestseller, but crime rates rise, divorce increases. True Christianity, authentic Christianity, slowly disappearing. False teachers who prey on women loaded with sins. Any kind of lifestyle goes. Evil men get worse. Bad times. Matthew 24, starting with verse 3. Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Jesus answered and said to them, Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many false Christs today. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. You see that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. It has not occurred yet, but it's rushing toward it. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in various places. Revelation 6 says there are 4 horsemen. One will be someone saying great peace is coming, but then there'll be war. There'll be famine. There'll be pestilence, sickness. It'll run around the world, but the end has not come. Nation will rise against nation. These are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation, Christians, and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended and will betray one another and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Many Christians will see their love grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations. And then the end will come. Perilous times. We live in perilous times often. These can be perilous times for many people. But the good news is Jesus has not come back yet. But we have a word of salvation. Christ Jesus can help you get through anything you have to face. Trust in the Lord. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. That's 2 Timothy chapter 3, the first 7 verses. See you next week.